my dear teachers, friends, and participants, I'm participating in this international webinar with immense pleasure because of a couple of reasons. First, this webinar is on management of learning in an unprecedented crisis situation. This topic is very particular for me because as the Director of State Institute of Education and Technology, Kerala, I have got a chance to put forward some technological solutions for moving forward one of the most essential sectors which acts as the driving force of the present and as a mold of the future. Secondly, this webinar is conducted by Neshamani Memorial Christian College, my alma mater. As all of you know, nostalgia is a powerful feeling. It's an ephemeral composition of good old memories, and something can make it more genuine. So I thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk something about how the teaching learning process has come forward and it put forward during this pandemic time. So as Dr. Paul Raj, my beloved teacher and the principal of this college, has rightly mentioned, so this situation demanded some technological solutions which have both positive and negative results. So that the outbreak of COVID was unexpected. But when the situation became worse, people all over the world came up to find out their own solutions to cross over this situation. So this is how the human society is progressing. So let me begin my presentation. See, let me bring your attention to this photograph. Can you see that photograph? Thank you. Let me bring your attention to this photograph. This is a classroom. More precisely, an open classroom. This photograph is telling us the story of people's might with which they overcame a catastrophic plight. During Second World War, the United States of America detonated 2 nuclear weapons over the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on 6th and 9th of August 1945, respectively. The story you know. The 2 bombings killed nearly 2.5 lakh people. Most of them were civilians, quite naturally. The cities were literally became a heap of ashes and debris. But the people, though they surrendered in the war, were not willing to surrender to their fate. They made a plan to rebuild their life, their nation. Their first priority was to restart education. But how? Fantastic school buildings in the cities were just a memory. The schools in Hiroshima city had either been destroyed by the bomb or were being used for relief or temporary shelter for bomb victims. Only 1/4 of the former schools could actually be used as schools. So this is also a classroom. Children lost their books, their study materials, their teachers, but not their hopes, not their dreams. People have decided to start classes in open spaces. The photograph that we are watching now was a classroom. That was a college. They used oak boxes in which they store coal for sitting. Students began to study. And you know the rest is history. Japan has emerged as a developed country. So now this country is leading the world, or leading one of the leading countries. The post-war Japanese model in education played a vital role in the development of Japanese industry as well. So that is our point. Technology made available even from abroad. Then they have developed their own indigenous technologies and later has become one of the technologically advanced countries. They have their own corporate goals were clear and investment risks were curtailed. A spirit of national consensus promoted close cooperation between business and the government. I have mentioned this to indicate how the crisis management was initiated through restarting education. After long 74 years of Hiroshima bombing, the schools were again closed down. This time, Japan was not alone. All the world is experiencing the same due to COVID-19 pandemic. While deliberating on management of learning process during COVID, reviewing historic experiences of crisis-driven survival strategies, and the rise of alternative economies is helpful in understanding the present situation. So we have to learn from history. As happened after the financial crisis of 2008, we know post-pandemic recovery measures of the governments caught up in transnational trade-offs will normally give top priority to do everything to restore the global economy of capital flows. Ethical banking, that is one of the main requirements after that 2008 crisis, The digital entrepreneurship and cryptographic virtual currencies have established a new economy based on new forms of exchange. So I emphasize the word exchange. Here in education or in any human endeavors, exchange is the keyword. Exchange is the core activity. Without exchanging things, without exchanging ideas, without exchanging money, so we cannot progress. Nothing without exchange is a standstill atmosphere. There is paralysis. So when the time go beyond, we have to find out new forms, methods, and strategies for exchange. A series of new exactions like healthcare levy, salary control, wage reduction, job retrenchment, and public expenditure cuts, besides withdrawal of compensations and welfare measures would follow. So as in 2008, these things happened in a post-COVID situation or in a COVID situation or in any crisis situations, these things may happen. It is at this critical juncture we are thinking of the solutions to reduce catastrophic effects of COVID-19. People demand better health security, redistribution of wealth, enhancement of consumption, boosting up the investment, and definitely employment generation. India is concerned. We have a dynamic private sector under the free market economy of macroeconomic stability, huge domestic market, fairly diversified science tech infrastructure, commendable knowledge network, and developed IT sector of global software provider status. All these positive things helps us to cross this crisis moment. So then, if we come to education, I went through a UNICEF data, and that data says schools for more than 168 million children globally have been completely closed for almost an entire year due to this COVID-19 lockdowns. So the situation continues. In India, approximately 35 crore students were affected. It is in various levels. They are pre-primary, primary, secondary, and senior secondary, then higher education, and in a different area, that is skill education. So I am mentioning skill education because the skill education sector is nowadays getting prominence. And after this inculcation of NSQ, of National Skill Qualification framework, we have to adopt skill courses from secondary level to higher education. So when we consider education, we have to give due importance to skill education also. And the pre-primary level, which was not in our consideration for so many years. But nowadays, pre-primary education is also very much valued and mentioned and considered in the new education policy, which recently declared. When we come to the Kerala experience that I have been experiencing, so we are now trying to examine how state of Kerala faced the challenge of taking the teaching learning process forward during this COVID time. So let's consider the school education. I am taking this as a case because I am more familiar with the school education. So why Kerala? Kerala has 93.9 literacy rates compared to the national literacy rate of 74%. In January 2016, Kerala became the first Indian state to achieve 100% primary education. And recently, Kerala has achieved 100% high-tech classrooms. The government has initiated a public education rejuvenation program under which 45,000 classrooms were made smart classrooms, not only in delivering content, but in developing IT infrastructure in school administration. Kerala became a successful model. So in the COVID time or in any crisis situation, when technology comes to us as a helping hand, these developments have supported the system to implement the projects and programs effectively. So that is why I am taking Kerala as a case study. The state have an extensive system of preschool institutions. In the National Education Policy 2020, preschool education, as I mentioned earlier, is given more emphasis. The child development starts at the age of 3, and between 3 to 8 is a crucial time, which we have neglected so far. Even though we send our children to primary education centers, we have never developed a curriculum. We have never developed, never adopted an age-appropriate pedagogy. We simply send them to Anganwadis or some preschool centers. But now, the government has taken this issue and trying to develop such a curriculum. In Kerala, there are about 40,000 centers, primary education centers. Preschool education is imparted to children into 3 to 8 years age group. It is the first stage of organized education, we know. Preschool education is also, we call it as primary education. It is provided in any of the settings such as Anganwadis, nursery schools, preschools, preparatory schools, kindergartens, these Montessori schools, etc., etc. And these pre-primary sections located in government and private school. So what happens in this pre-primary period? The holistic development of the child. It's the learning and development in children that is holistic. It advances in the areas of health, cognition, personal and social development and well-being simultaneously. Children learn at different times, in different ways, and at different rates. The aim of preschool education is to facilitate optimum development of the child, its full potential, and lay the foundation for all-round development and lifelong learning. So that is why this preschool age is very important. So what is particular about preschool education in this COVID time? When all the preschool institutions were closed, these kids lost any opportunity to be induced into the formal learning system. They don't have any idea about a school. They don't have any idea about a teacher. They don't have any chance to interact with their friends in their own age groups. They don't have any opportunity to speak as they like. So in house, we know the small kids, they don't have any opportunity. We cannot interact with them as they like. And we don't know how they develop, what they like to speak. So only their friends, the children in their own age group can interact well. That opportunity is lost. And what is the result? The adverse effect. They are very much behind in socialization, which may arise as a serious problem in the future. There are 12,961 educational institutions that follow the curricula stipulated by the government of Kerala. I am coming to the secondary and senior secondary level. Nearly 4.6 million students study in these schools. In addition, there are 1,500 schools that offer different national and global curricula. All these institutions are closed. What's striking about the Indian context is the rare demographic situation of having the world's highest population ratio of youngsters. Estimates indicate that young people between 15 and 24 years of age number 1.21 billion and account for 15.5% of the global population. Out of the country's total population of about 1.32 billion, over 65% are below the age of 35, and above 50% are in the age group of 18 to 23. This is in fact a wonder. We call it a demographic dividend. It is extremely important for the nation to design effective strategies for empowering the youth with core competencies to face the global challenges. It is at this backdrop we are considering the issue of higher education in the pandemic-stricken period. So the important thing is, what will be the post-COVID residual in higher education sector is a very serious question. Indian higher education will not be affected by the international supply chain disruption, but the change of teaching learning mode is not widely accepted. As Dr. Palraj already mentioned, the unavailability of the gadgets, or the more theoretically says the access issue, is one of the major issues that we are facing in national level. Our youth, they are not getting any chance for practical training, for any access to the knowledge inquiry methods. So this will also affect our whole system in future. If we come to skill education, the situation is more grave and challenging. Industrial exposure and hands-on training are the quality determining factors of skill education. The fourth industrial revolution is reshaping the world of work, altering business models, and requiring a new set of skills for workers to thrive in an increasingly competitive environment. Disruptions to the labor market are compounded by the impact of the coronavirus disease, widening inequalities and accentuating the importance of investments in reskilling and upskilling to help displaced workers get new jobs. The twin shocks are catapulting economies into a more technology-driven world, thereby cementing the value of digital skills. Government of Kerala, with the objective of skilling the global standards for employment in India and abroad, has also set up an academy, Kerala Academy for Skills Excellence, CASE, And also we have projects like Additional Skill Acquisition Program, ASAP, that is a central government program. There is a skill ministry in the union government. And vocational training and ITIs, which is also spread across the country, the online mode. So this is the present situation in the pandemic period. So then how we tried to overcome this situation? A comparatively successful model of education in the present scenario is initiated in Kerala in school education. So there are some activities, there are some measures taken in higher education, but a centralized form or centralized strategy was adopted in school education. In higher education, the measures have been taken at the college level. The universities have given broad guidelines. But in school education, which is very particular in Kerala, we have adopted a strategy which is centralized. We have provided centralized solutions. And that is why school education in Kerala during this time is appreciated as a national model. At a time when schools are closed, so that happened in 2020 March last week. Immediately after the lockdown, State Institute of Education Technology, in which I am working, has come up with the idea of Puttata Padashala, schools that does not close. So there was lockdown, and the government was not considered education sector as an essential sector. Only health, power, law and order, water supply. So all these sectors were considered as essential sectors, and people from the rest of the areas were not allowed to come out of their home. So the education institutions were closed. Teachers were not allowed to go to the schools or taking any class or something. So the situation was very, very unexpected. But immediately after this situation arose, we thought of these technological solutions. And we came up this school that does not close. This program is implemented in association with Doordarshan and other mass media. The lockdown was announced by the end of March 2020, and this program started on 17th April 2020. SIT has planned 2 programs with the support of Doordarshan here as the part of this program. One is a live program, another was a televised classroom. In the live program, students can interact with the teachers available in the Doordarshan studio. So in Kerala, academic year start by first week of June. But the success of Puttata Padashala gave confidence to start class in the television mode. By the end of April, we have made a discussion on this matter, and we decided to open the schools in digital mode. Even though the schools are closed, we can open it through television classes. So we have started another program that is First Bell. You can see the students watching TV. They are in a classroom, but that classroom is in a house. All households in the state has become classrooms. This First Bell was launched by the General Education Department on 1st of June as an interim arrangement against the backdrop of the state schools remains closed. So even we didn't think that this situation will last for more than a year. We have planned it for maximum for 6 months. The classes were telecasted through Victious channel. In Kerala, the education department has an exclusive education channel. So that is called Victious. It is owned and run by the General Education Department. It is aimed at ensuring that not a single student misses out on classes during this testing time. So when we decided to start digital classes, we have to face some challenges. And these challenges are multifaceted. One is infrastructural. The second is pedagogical. The third is related to the health of the students and some other important challenges also. So when we come to infrastructure, there was lack of gadgets, there was lack of connectivity or reach, lack of power supply, etc. We have made a survey and found that 2.5 lakhs students, they are not having television sets or any other gadgets for participating in these digital classes. Connectivity issues were also there. Students from the unprivileged sections of the society, they doesn't have the sets. What was the solution? Government cannot provide television sets to all the students. It is impossible. We made it as a social responsibility. So through mass movement, all the students, we have given 3 weeks time. We have started television classes, but for the 3 weeks, we have repeated the classes. Till the last student has got a television set and a television connection, we continued this process, these classes, we retelecasted these classes, and within 3 weeks, all the students got television sets by a mass movement. So how the things are managed, so that is the point I am explaining. Government has taken its own steps. It didn't wash out their hands and telling that people should supply television sets. That is not like that. Government has announced interest-free loans. Government also asked the corporate sector to support as a social security, corporate social responsibility schemes are pooled by the government. Another issue was related with reach. No DTH operators has included victims in their bouquet. The government also taken that step to include it. So here you can see a school that is a tribal school. It is in Idamalakudi. So Idamalakudi was a tribal hamlet. To reach there, we have to walk 18 kilometers through thick forest. There is also a school, but they don't have electricity. They don't have any connectivity. The teachers, the committed teachers, they walked all the 18 kilometers every week with charged laptops and contents loaded in that. And every week, a new set of teachers will go to that hamlet with contents and newly charged laptops, and they have conducted classes. The second issue is pedagogical. That is also very important. So we are adopting constructive pedagogy rather than this behavior pedagogy. This constructive pedagogy cannot be applied through these digital classes. So what we can do? So only through constructive pedagogy we can ensure critical thinking. We can ensure creativity. So what we can do? So as one expert says, digital technology can empower learners by helping them choose what they like to do best, and it should not replace the analog, because by nature, the human body is analog. And we are trying to match two different worlds here. So what we did is, we have adopted a mixed pedagogy, a hybrid pedagogy. We can call it digital. It's a collaborative learning in open spaces and the personalized learning with the digital devices that should be blended. But digital will be the future. So I am just summing up because of the lack of time. So the digital is the future. So we should adopt digital methodologies. So there are immense chances to do research in these areas. The research can be multidisciplinary. Problems with technology, problems related with pedagogy, the curricular research, policy-related research that I didn't get time to explain, that policy-related matters, which is also very important. Problems related with the management of schools and education system. In all these areas, we should have research, because when a pandemic situation pertains or in any other crisis situations, the results of these researchers will support the policymakers, support the government, support the stakeholders to come to more effective solutions. So I request all the researchers attending this webinar to think of the areas which can be connected with the education, which is it is the high time to think of such research. There are research areas in connection with the parental awareness, teachers' competency with these gadgets. The right policy decisions are necessary for effective implementation. So with this humble notes, let me wind up my presentation. I thank all of you for patient hearing, and I once again thank my teachers, especially Dr. Jeba Melvin, my beloved teacher, Dr. Sam Santosh, my another beloved teacher, Dr. Paul Raj, and all others for giving me this opportunity to talk a few words with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation regarding management and learning process during COVID-19.